through so that he would get all the 0.65 milliliters of AZT.
3 months into the pregnancy, they tested me.
Positive.
I came up positive. We fought them, saying we didn't believe it, put them off, we don't want the drugs for 2 months, and we agreed to start the AZT 5 months into the pregnancy. And that's when they took us down, they put us in an office, we had these stack of papers, and we just signed it all.
She was doing seizures for a while.
Yeah, she did some
Or
seizures.
she'd be sitting there and her face would just kind of tighten up, and
her eyes would roll back.
And her eyes would roll. And then she, that one time on the couch, we came out and she was convulsing.
Right.
We called the 911. She had a lot of fever-related seizures. She's been very, very, very hard to raise. And I know that she was poisoned. She's a different child, and it's everybody, a lot of people know. Rachel is going to lead Rachel's life.
Right.
And Rachel physically seems to be fine.
Who is that?
She can't say 1, 2, 3. She can't say one. You can't. No, she can't count to 3, and she can't say ABC, and she can't say her name, and she can't tell you how old she is. And sometimes in her head, I mean, she wakes up in the middle, like crying sometimes, and like in pain, just screaming, and it's hard to see what's going on with her, and it really hurts me. And I feel somewhat responsible because I let those doctors give her those drugs.
And I don't think that Paul and I can really say that there's anything specifically wrong with her, because I don't think anybody can really tell.
Rachel's different.
She's just different.
Some of the concerns that I guess the dissident side raises is that AZT is contraindicated for everyone except pregnant women, children, and people in third world countries. How does that work? What's your response to that?
Well, that's an absolutely ridiculous position. It's totally false. We give AZT all the time to patients with HIV disease.
In monotherapy?
No, we don't use monotherapy ever. We use AZT as part of a combination regimen. But let me ask you something. Do you believe that HIV causes AIDS?
That's the general position. I mean, that seems to be the prevailing wisdom on it.
Do you personally believe that HIV causes AIDS?
I don't have enough information either way, personally.
Are you one of the dissidents?
A dissident? No.
How can you say you don't have enough information if you're doing a documentary on this topic?
I'm forming an opinion based on the information that I gather.
Honestly, Robin, if you're at this meeting, you should have had an opinion formed before coming here.
That's not necessarily true. That's not necessarily true. I mean, I can see that you're a man who stands powerfully behind that idea.
I stand powerfully and passionately behind that idea.
I see that.
And I'm concerned that if you are someone who is going to waffle on this topic, that you will attempt to edit my remarks in a way that will make me look foolish.
I will not do that. I'm not out to take anyone's dignity or anything. I'm trying to put together a series of interviews that bring enlightenment to the subject. That's it.
As far as I'm concerned, and I hope this view is adequately represented, those who attempt to dispel the notion that HIV is the cause of AIDS are perpetrators of death. And I would very much, for one, like to see the Constitution of the United States and similar countries have some means in place that we can charge people who are responsible for endangering public health with charges of endangerment and bring them up on trial. I think that people like Peter Duisberg belong in jail.
We don't say Toyotas and Mercedes shouldn't be sold here because we want to sell General Motors. But when it comes to science, we act in America like the Pope acts in Rome. there's only one truth and only one direction to march in.
One of the distinguishing features of modern science is skepticism, the spirit to challenge other people's work, the spirit to challenge your own work. And I fear that this spirit is disappearing, in particular in the case of HIV and AIDS. Anybody that speaks up against or challenges some of the entrenched paradigms or principles is not only not welcome, but they are strongly criticized to the point of being called names: bigots, homophobes, baby killers, flat earthers, Holocaust deniers. Certainly, this would indicate to me that the spirit of skepticism, the spirit of challenge, the spirit of scientific debate in this field is virtually completely gone.
Someone who would perpetrate the notion that HIV is not the cause of AIDS is perhaps motivated by sentiments of pure evil, that such a person may perhaps really want millions of people in Africa and elsewhere to become infected by this virus and go on to die of it. And who knows, maybe there's a hidden agenda behind the thoughts of a madman. Maybe all psychopaths everywhere have ways of getting their views across that are sometimes camouflaged in subterfuge. But I suggest to you that Peter Duesberg is probably the closest thing we have in this world to a scientific psychopath.
There are a lot of other scientists that raise the challenges that he raises.
And now the interview's finished. Thanks.
I had all the students I wanted, I had all the lab space I needed, I got all the grants awarded, I was elected in the National Academy, I became California Scientist of the Year, all my papers were published. I could do no wrong, almost, professionally that is, until I started questioning the claim that HIV, or the hypothesis that HIV is the cause of AIDS. Then everything changed.
The disease that is now known as malaria was thought up until the middle of the 19th century to be something caused by organisms in the air, hence the term malaria. I mean, the French thought that it was a disease of lethargy and of fever caused by being in tropical climates because there was something in the air. It was not till the middle of the 19th century that they discovered that malaria had nothing to do with the air, but it was caused by the bite of the Anopheles mosquito. That's the vector for malaria. So, you know, the causation for disease, the causation for illness, for a number of other natural phenomenon in astronomy and microbiology is always something that's open for robust and vigorous dispute and debate, and AIDS is no different.
It has been something of a marvel to me how colleagues in the business, who normally would be the first to challenge blatantly exaggerated claims that come from organizations like UNAIDS and the WHO and some of these other major organizations, they're completely uncritically accepted and uncritically reported. And this is harmful because it's helped, every time these agencies feel that concern about AIDS is beginning to die away in the countries where it's a diminishing problem, they issue new reports with new projections and new exaggerated claims to try to keep the funds flowing and keep the concern there. And I can understand this from one perspective, that because they have the mindset that this is such a terrible epidemic, and because they've closed their minds to other ways of thinking, they feel that they're justified in doing this. But it's a dangerous way of behaving, and it's helped to distort the science and maintain some illusory aspects of this for much longer than need have been the case.
I don't think most people got involved in it, really looked at it and said, I don't think this is really true, but I won't get into it anyhow. It wasn't like that. It was like they were never questioning it because it was the easy way to go. You follow, I mean, if somebody's paying you $150,000 a year for working on something, you don't have to be questioning whether that's useful every day, because it's useful to you. I mean, if you're trying to work your way up in IBM, you don't immediately